Hello and welcome back for the second video in our 5-part series all about systemizing and professionalizing your property portfolio. Last time I spoke to you about why you should want to systemize and why it's really, really important to start systemizing and creating processes as soon as you possibly can. So whether you're just getting started and have 0 investment properties at the moment, or you've already got a large portfolio and you're looking to continue growing it, but you're still self-managing it all yourself, you cannot get started on this stuff soon enough because, again, as I said yesterday, the goal of creating these systems and processes is so that you can either scale much more confidently and with the right foundations in place, and therefore more easily, and or so you can take yourself out of the business and work in it a lot less than you currently are. You know, for a lot of property investors, especially in the beginning, you've got a full-time job that's probably quite demanding, and you have then an additional stress added onto your plate when you become a property investor and you're self-managing of dealing with tenants and doing all of the admin and the maintenance and that kind of stuff. And so time is a really, really precious resource, and if you have the right systems and processes in place, you'll find that you will be able to reclaim some of that time, and your sanity and the stress levels will inevitably go down. And so, I don't think I need to convince many of you as to why you need to systemize or create good processes. But hopefully yesterday's video gave you some very concrete examples as to why you should. And today I'm going to be focusing a little bit on what you can systemize, because that for a lot of people is a bit of a hang up, and it's like, oh, well, systems and processes are just things for big corporations, and I just got a few properties and it doesn't matter, and I can just do everything myself. And that's fine, but again, if you want to take the stress away and to make it less hassle for you, you really, really need to start thinking about systemizing. And the great news is as far as the what you can systemize is concerned, it is literally almost everything you do. Again, as I talked about yesterday, it's really just about taking the things that you implicitly do and are already doing and making them explicit so that somebody else can do the process for you if you decide to delegate, or you can make sure you're doing things to the right standards and you're not forgetting things if you do want to keep doing them yourself for some reason. So what can you systemize? Like I said, literally almost everything. Everything from, looking for a property and doing the research on what's a great investment option to, the process whereby you purchase it, to the refurbishment, to the eventual tenanting and all of the admin and the referencing involved, to the maintenance, to, if you ever decide to sell and move on, and the marketing, lots of things. Literally, again, everything that you're already doing. You have a process in your brain. You just need to put that down on paper. So for example, you can outsource and or create a process for how you do research on finding potential investment properties. You can do what a lot of people do is, go on, for example, Rightmove or Zoopla and just create a search alert, and you put in the criteria of what you're looking for, how much, how big, what distance from, the town center, etc. And then they will passively send you all of the properties that fit your criteria. That's a process. The other thing you could do is if you wanted to delegate that to somebody else and do something that requires a little bit more than what those search parameters would enable you to do already on Zoopla and Rightmove, you create a process and you download your brain and you say, okay, well, when I'm looking on Zoopla, I look not just at the price and the size and this, but I also look for, then I go to Google Maps and I look at how close it is to certain amenities. How close is it to a school? How close is it to the station? How close is it to big employers? All of these things that, again, you might intuitively just do when you're doing your due diligence and your research. That is a process. You think about it in your brain. If you put it down on paper, you can very easily give that to somebody else and say, okay, I want you to now go into Rightmove and Zoopla, and of the alerts they send me, or of doing, the searches from scratch, I want you to, in addition to price and size and location, look at these additional factors, and this is how you do it. This is how I do it. This is how I do it. And then the beauty of it is also you can say how you want the information. Again, you might have a spreadsheet that you fill out. You might have a document that you fill in. You might have a due diligence checklist that you go through. You can, again, sort of say to whoever you decide to delegate to, this is the form in which I want the information, because that's how you find it most useful. So again, once you create a process, it can be very, very easily scalable and given to somebody else. And like I said, that was just one example of what you can delegate, but literally there are dozens and dozens and dozens of things that you can delegate. It can be everything you currently do. It can be just the things that you don't want to do. It can be literally anything, and it doesn't just have to be, for your own, for your business. It can be for your personal life. For example, if you want to plan a family trip and you hate, having to spend hours and hours Googling and looking on Kayak and TripAdvisor and all of these things, you might do that already now, but if you start writing it down, what you're doing as you're doing, then you can, sort of hand that to somebody else at some point if you decide to do so, and say, hey, these are the criteria, this is how I do it, this is the process I follow, please do this, follow this process, and you can get someone to help you plan your next family holiday. It really is the entire universe, for the most part, can be systemized and put into some sort of process. And again, it doesn't have to be high tech, it doesn't have to be software, it doesn't have to be, apps or anything like that. It can just be a checklist, it can be a Google Doc, it can be an Excel spreadsheet, whatever it is. But literally the what you can systemize, or the answer to the question of what can you systemize and create a process for, is literally almost everything. So think about what you're doing on the day-to-day basis when you're running your property portfolio. Think about some of the pain points you feel, or the frustrations, or the things that take up a lot of your time, and all of the things that you do intuitively when you're responding to a tenant phone call, or you're going and listing an ad on whatever portal you use. And think about all of that. And again, the processes you already use intuitively, put it down on paper so that even if you're not ready now, at some point when you are ready and you want to, you can delegate it to somebody else. Or again, as I said, you can make sure that you're doing things to the right standard for your own self, and you're not missing any steps, and you're not forgetting to do something that's really, really important. So part 1, we talked about why you should systemize. Part 2 is what you can systemize. And please come back tomorrow for part 3, where I'll be talking to you about how you can systemize. I will look forward to speaking to you then. Thanks, and have a wonderful day. Bye.